you. Okay, so it's Friday, September 27th. Stephanie, we have missed seeing you, and all we really wanted to do is to see how you're doing and what we can do to help you.
Yeah, I'm doing good. What was it? My everything's going well. I just can't make that time.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah. Well, I was going to tell you, it's very likely we're going to change that time anyway.
Sure.
Because we only have one person who's been able to make that time, and that doesn't make any sense to have. It's like we may as well just have individual meetings. It doesn't matter to me how we do it, whether we do short. And by the way, we're going to do half an hour because I've got Juliet coming in at 3:30. Similarly, we just need to catch up with her. And if this is how we need to do it, then this is how we do it. You know.
Yep. During that time, my coworker leaves to pick up her kid, and I'm the only one here with the phones and everything and people. I just can't get it, but it works. Like I'm kind of stuck at the module 2, mostly because I can't finish for some reason writing out all my notes on the statutes, even though I know them. I just haven't finished writing it up. Let's just
modify and adjust. So know that the assignments aren't there to require you to write everything out. Part of why we ask you to write stuff out is because once we give you the new business plan template, a lot of what you have written out will be able to be transferred right into it. So it's kind of getting the parts without realizing you're doing them. But as far as the statutes go, the purpose is to get you to, one, be familiar with the code so that you know what your state says you can and cannot do, what you're legally responsible for, and then to pick and to say okay, so in the state of Florida, I mean, a lot of people, your state has pretty liberal codes. Yeah. And there are a lot of people working under either the kids are signed out as homeschoolers, and I don't think there's a lot of, you tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's a lot of regulation about who can work with them.
No, it doesn't seem to be. It seems like the most thing is the tutoring center, that one has the most regulation, it seems. Like you have to have a degree in that subject to be able to tutor them. Okay. You have to have a teaching license in that. But other than that, nothing seems to be I'm already technically a private school. I've already got all the things. I've got a school code and everything.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And the benefit for that is, I think as a private school, you may also be entitled to have your family, you can get there's a way in which you may be able to get a portion of the students' money that's collected by the state that goes to schools, I believe, but we need to look into that. I think that there's something like $1,200 or $1,500 as a private school provider you may be eligible to requisition on behalf of.
Cool.
Okay, so the main things are it sounds like you're aiming toward private school or calling yourself a private school.
Yep.
So you're taking full responsibility for those students. Is there anything in the code that talks with you about any kind of submissions you have to make to the state? Because Amy works under a very similar thing, and I'm going to unmute you for 1 second, Amy, just to see if you want to weigh in, since it sounds like her situation is similar. And then we'll probably hear Renfest chaos. Here we go.
Yes. So what's the direct question again? Just what my state standards are?
Because it sounds like your state is fairly similar in the sense that Stephanie's already allowed to call herself a private school because the regulations are not particularly stringent. She has a school code already. We just talked to her about your statutes have certain reporting requirements or record keeping requirements, and tell her what your requirements are that you went through today with somebody else.
Sure. So the only Minnesota state requirements are that we submit a list of enrollees and include the immunization records. And then I have to they have a list of 5 or 6 standardized tests that I can choose from. And I administer one at the end of the year. And I don't even have to submit the results. I just have to have them on file in case of auditing. And then also just to keep my own personal teaching records on file, or digital portfolios, or just some way to prove learning, that we're not just sitting around doing nothing. And then if they audit me, I have that available too.
That's cool. Amy, I'm going to mute you again.
Okay.
main reason I wanted her to share that with you. It was not because those are your regulations, but because she's super familiar with hers. And the main points I want you to hear are she's keeping really good documentation of what she's doing. So and I would suggest you do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, if you can, collect immunization records, have everybody's information on file, figure out what the State Department may ask you for, and make sure you're tracking that, and keep lots of detailed notes about what you're doing or what your students are doing every day, or have them creating portfolios where they're gathering evidence of their learning. It's a similar process to what homeschooling families go through.
That's what it says. It seems similar. We have to submit a report, like just a pretty basic report, once a year, of just the breakdown, like nationality and stuff like that.
Okay.
Of the kids, and then you have to keep attendance records and keep all those things on file too. And for the one student, I have them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's great because you're getting to practice that.
Yeah.
On a very easy level. Really what most of what the school code does is it stipulates how much time and what a student is supposed to learn. They don't specify how or the curriculum or any of that. Although if you're a public school, you know, because you're getting those tax dollars, that is specified by the standards in most cases. But again, Florida's really liberal. In its educational legislation, it's one of the most liberal states. So I don't want you to go willy-nilly. I mean, I don't know how, like somebody like the Sudbury schools who pretty much let kids do whatever they want all day. I don't know how they continue to operate in the climate that we're in. And I don't know that it's the best idea for us to go that direction. I think our micro schools are a little bit in between the complete freedom and a little tighter, you know, or a little more guided curricular focus. So
I think just having just my one student, my Katie, has been very good because it's helped me even kind of find like what am I okay with her not completing these things, or doing it completely her own way, or giving up on something halfway through. And it's kind of helped me figure it out. I think even because I know what I like and what the thoughts I am, but it's like, okay, I'm doing it in practice and making sure that I'm sticking to what I know I want, but also what I know she can do. So it's been a good experience to try this out small ways.
Okay. And so what I hear you saying, and I had gone through a very similar experience when I went to the island to teach, was that I had a very specific idea in my mind about what kids should be doing and learning and how they should be doing that. Some of it actually didn't match with the students I was working with.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to get to a point where you're either able in choosing to let go of the way that you think things should be, or you need to be attracting the student who matches the way you want to have learning occur. So it's just finding a good fit there, and there's learning on both sides for sure.
Sure. Yeah, it's been for sure interesting because she says that she's in 7th grade right now. She says that she wants to go to high school, to public high school, and so I want to make sure that she kind of stays so that she won't be there like, oh, I haven't had to do an assignment or whatever in 2 years, and then I don't know what to do. But I also want her to experience the freedom of being able to do it herself. So we're trying out different things to see what works best for her.
Yeah. I will tell you one of the things that I'm doing for both Cam and Amy, and since you have a student and are technically semi-open, I'm not going to class you in the same group as both Amy and Cam because they have multiple students and they're collecting tuition. And by the way, are you actually gathering tuition for this student, or you're just doing it pro bono to see what you're doing?
I'm doing pro bono.
Okay.
Now, and it doesn't. The kid that she's very close to our family too. So she actually from when she was 1.5 years until about a year ago, she spent every weekend with me. Because she was adopted by an older lady who just couldn't really, needed a break. So she would come to my house, like she was in my wedding and everything. So it's different. It's different than I'm taking this student. It's more like, it's almost like
an adopted child.
Versus not.
Yeah, it's like she's your child. So totally perfect. I just wanted the clarification in my mind, because that means in my mind you still are very much in the workshop, because there does come a point where when you're far enough along and you're planning that I'm, like in Cam's case, we moved into the collective because she had enough of her business plan done and her budget done that I knew her school was going to work, and she needed a different kind of coaching. She didn't need coaching on these basic pieces. She needed the real in-time brainstorming around, here's this challenge I just came up with. How am I going to solve that? And that's nothing that I could put down in curriculum units for that could handle that stuff, because it's like literally in the moment based on the business itself. Like, for instance, I don't have the down payment for my building. What do I do? Like, I'm not going to write up a whole module on that. It's a one-on-one. So, but you're not quite there yet. So you're good. You're coming along nicely. I love that you have this student. Have you done any more work on your market research?
Yes, I have. I actually, because when you mentioned in the Loom video that I should have had the public schools also, which I actually did have, and I was like, well, maybe she doesn't need all that. So I actually have that more. I have the whole section, and I know that what we have is totally different than anything else that's around here. The other places in town that are small like ours, like would be a micro school, are very structured. And ours is not like that. Mine's not like that. So I know that that's where our special sauce is.
Your special sauce, your niche. Okay. Well, then it sounds to me like you're ready to move on to module 3, because what that's going to get you to do is to map out we call it your currency. So, you have a sense of, do you have a sense of what you could charge for tuition for what you're going to do?
Yeah. I'm pretty set on 400, which seems like not a lot, but it's pretty normal for around here.
A month or a week?
A month.
Okay, I will tell you that's pretty low.
It is.
And I would encourage you to rethink it. This is just my opinion, because daycare on average is $200 a week. And you are going to be providing far more than that. I realize. So here's the deal. It doesn't mean that you can't have that for a family in need. If you try to create a stable school business on that tuition rate, it's going to be really hard to make it run in the green versus run in the red. The only ways around that are going to be to not pay yourself. And Amy, I'm going to unmute you again, and you can sort of talk from real life experience about what it's been like running at a lower tuition rate.
Absolutely. Yeah. I started out trying to do $5 an hour because I really wanted to be something that everyone could afford. And that's when I was unable to pay myself. Like, I had no extra money whatsoever. So after, working with you guys, all of you, during the workshop, and realizing I need to value a little bit more, I was able to raise my rates this year, and I didn't have anyone balk at it, because they also know what a value this really is. And just being able to talk about, when you get a little farther on in the workshop, we have you do value propositions. So, for example, I can say we have 100% less active shooting drills in our school than you would in a public school or even a private school. We have 600% more outside time available based on our 2 hours of outside time versus 15 minutes,
Sure.
So it's just, once you start looking at that, it'll be easier, I think, for you to look and see and try to set a price that's not only fair for you, but that you can, be fair for the market and that the market can bear.
Sure.
So part of what I'm encouraging you to do is set up your founding families and having them be families who actually afford to pay for your service at a rate that's competitive with the other schools. So that's why we do the market research. So, I mean, what are the local private schools charging you?
I've priced them all, and they go from about $423 to about $515
a month.
Yeah.
The private schools. They really are operating at under $5,000 a year.
The other micro school that I even consider something, what got me interested into it, actually, she only charges $270 a month per kid. but so that's why I was thinking, well, it's kind of like an in-between number, that it wasn't too high, that it was still competitive with the private schools with more to offer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see those numbers, and then I'd like to see the cost basis for your public schools, what the education is valued at per student. So here in my community, it's 13.5, which tells me that that's what that is what a year of education should be costing. And 13.5 divided by 9 is $1,500 a month. So when I talk with families about $1,500 a month gets your child usually a highly qualified teacher, but that was responsible for 25 to 30 children, and all of the same age, and all moving through a standardized curriculum at the same pace. Whereas your child will be one of 10 who will have an individualized learning plan, who will be designing and mapping out the things that they're curious. You can start to hear, you already hear there's a real value. So like for the quote unquote free education I get that's valued at 13.5, this is what I get. And like Amy was mentioning, I get active shooter drills and no assurance that my child's coming home alive.
No.
I get anxiety, stress, anyway. This is not to say that you can't have students in poverty be part of your school. You absolutely can. But what I have seen over and over again is that that needs to happen on a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
It can't be all of your students.
Yeah.
So like Cam's tuition is $30,000. Her founding family, she gave them a discount of 25. They're paying 25 as the first families in. But she had a couple of families that were paying 22 for that first year. They understood a private education in California is $30,000 and up. So they understood that they were going to get that value, that they were even going to get more, and that if they were willing to take the risk of this initial year when she was creating the programming around and with and for the kids, that she would she's going to grandfather them in at that tuition rate. Well, I think she has told them they just get that for the first year. But in that, I want you to hear that, she knows what the value of the education is worth. I'm sort of, my brain is thrown back to the discussions we had with Candy. Remember how she was talking about, she kept cutting the prices. Yeah. She wasn't getting people to come. I think that, it's very hard to realize this, but the less you charge, the less people actually value your work.
I really thought about that a lot. Matter of fact, when I first went up for the conference, I originally was already only thinking about charging like $320 a month, and then I moved up to $400. Maybe I do need to go up more to be more equal with the private schools. But but I know I can't do too high, or nobody will be able to afford it at all here in town. But but it is worth a lot.
It is worth a lot, and you when you start to play around with budgets, what you want to do is figure out how many students do you need to make it work to pay yourself. Because if you don't, part of what we're doing is we're also changing people's opinions of educators. So we're I'm coaching you in business strategies that will change the esteem of you and teachers in general in people's eyes, because not only are you a purveyor of educational, and not only do you have that experience, but you are running a sound business.
Sure.
So if you're going to go that direction of the really low cost, then it's probably better to operate as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Then I have to be completely honest that I don't know how to make that financially sound.
Yeah.
It's not my expertise. My expertise is figuring out, in my case, figuring out what knowledge I have and that I can share and teach, and what its real value is.
Sure.
Client, and then having the courage to charge that, which means some people will be turned away.
Yeah.
But once I have the stable basis of regularly occurring, tuition payments, or in my case, then I have leftover money from that I can put towards sliding scale or tuition. So
Sure.
for micro school builders, one of the goals is when we hit a certain point of revenue generation in the business is to create a foundation which will offer scholarships to students who want to go to your schools if you're part of the network. But in order to make that happen, I have to generate revenue, or I have to find an angel investor who's willing to donate towards that. But the thing I can tell you with pretty much certainty is nobody's going to want to do it unless they see I actually can run my business in the green.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I actually thought it was a pretty good number, but you're right that it is, now that I think about it. Because I was thinking, I was like, well, it pays me exactly what I'm making now, plus it would cover a building if I can get something for under $1,000 a month just for the rent. But it would be better to not have to worry about that, because I also want to be able to provide things for them. And I've written that stuff into the budget too, but I think that I was pretty much making it as small as I could.
I totally get it. It's like that's where our brains are to begin with. And I realize that your community has some financial issues, but part of what's going to rebirth Panama City isn't doing everything on the cheap, because at the end of the day, people with lots of money are going to come in and buy all those properties up for cheap, and then they're going to build really expensive buildings that nobody in Panama City can afford.
That's true. It's happening a little bit already.
I mean, that's what happens. It's like the carpetbaggers after the Civil War was over.
Sure.
People came in and bought things up, and unfortunately, we live in a business climate, in a democracy that allows free enterprise, which means we don't always do the things that take the best care of everybody. But I think your school, if you set it up on a decent financial basis, then it will be able to serve the kids in poverty. Plus, in order to get them up and out of poverty, you want to be able to show them a way out.
Yeah.
Which isn't looking for the cheapest way to do everything.
I really wasn't looking to provide something for. Come in. My husband's to provide for the people in poverty. Panama City is a weird place that everything costs a lot, but nobody makes a lot. So it's weird. It's weird like that. But there are plenty of people that can afford more. Do you think that it makes it not as strong seeming of a business if they're like sharing space with like a church?
No, see, I think that's okay in the beginning. I mean, that is one way to maybe charge a little bit less if you don't have the expense of a rental space. In Pam's case, she had to rent.
Yeah.
Amy can charge less because Amy's working out of her basement. But Amy's goal is to purchase a farm. So Amy had to raise her tuition in order to start to get people ready for, there's going to be a mortgage on that property, and it's going to have to be paid for some way. And the children are going to be the benefactors of it. So the families are going to begin to contribute towards that. In Cam's case, she's renting a co-working space in a co-working space. The rent is $5,000 a month. That has to be built into the tuition cost.
Yeah.
Now, the real plus for her is that because she's in that space, her families were able to rent space in there too if they want to be there and work. So she's created a real convenience factor, and she has also eliminated a whole bunch of items off of her expense list that are included in that rent, like heating and cooling and all of the utilities and a big chunk of the insurance and the internet and the security system, just to mention a few. Those were able to come off of her list because they're included in the rent. So, you can play with those numbers a little bit.
But it doesn't seem like less to, like, even if I wanted to still charge a higher price, it doesn't seem like this is not as strong if it's not a standalone place. It's okay, you think of it as renting like a space.
Yeah, I'm going to unmute Amy again. She could tell you what she's charging and how her family's perceive the fact that her school's in her basement. Are you ready, Amy? I hope.
Oh, it's beautiful. Sparkly.
Amy, are you able to weigh in on
a couple?
Yes. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're unmuted. Are you able to weigh in on what you charge and how people perceive the value against the fact that you're running the school out of your business or out of your house versus renting a space?
You know, I haven't had anybody actually bring that up specifically as a concern, because that is kind of what I'm selling, is this home environment that's warm and nurturing and comforting and cozy. So I haven't
Like
I haven't
she's
come up against
homeschooling
that.
people's kids.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like
Her home.
homeschooling if you can't homeschool. Right.
And if
For XYZ, because you're running a business.
yeah, and you're charging 10,000 right now, right, Amy?
Correct.
Across 9.
And then I have like a sibling discount if you have two, but yeah.
So Amy's tuition payments are $1,111 a month. And
They
now,
are.
That's cool.
That's $277 a week. That's just slightly higher than daycare. And so, you know, I don't want you guys to ever get into the point where you're having to rationalize your price. But if people are going to go there, then you can show them the fact that childcare, you're still getting $200 a month average, or I mean $200 a week.
Sure.
And for $77 more, Amy's giving these children her full-on attention to help them learn and grow as a teacher with a master's degree. I mean, if we're really
And food and yeah.
Enough. Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, I was gonna say, and not only that, but it's lunch and snacks and, you know, everything else like that goes into it too. So.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I want you to, like, your assignment this week would be to go into the module 3, because it's going to take you through some of the stuff, which will really help to clarify why we're saying what we're saying to you. You're going to develop.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think about that, but I was thinking that it was a good price. But really, when I'm thinking about it more, I would much rather not have to scrounge to make it work. Or
let's say what was your number again? It was $400 a month.
400. Mm-hmm.
If you doubled that, here's the thing: you can always offer a discount for somebody who can't afford it.
Sure.
If you think about my work, you know what the full price of the workshop is, and you've heard me talk about the discounts that I have given.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I can tell you with certainty that I'm not doing is undercutting my ability to pay the bills.
Sure.
Because there are lots of expenses related to this work that sit behind it. There's advertising costs, technology costs. I have an accountant. I have a website maintenance and designer. I have a whole bunch of technology tools that I use, you know, like Zoom, things that sit behind. And then, you know, after all of those things are paid for, then I get to look at, can I actually pay myself?
Mm-hmm.
Because bills have to be paid first. So I want you to overestimate the cost of tuition, and then you can discount it. And then part of that is, it's not the most palatable sales strategy, but it is used a lot, and it's actually the truth. It's like you're giving people even more value by giving them a discount. If you say, this is the real value of the thing that you're getting.
Yeah, that's very true. And I don't think I thought about it exactly like that. So I think I'm looking forward to relooking at this again.
Excellent. So, well, the module 3 will help you for sure, because it's going to get you to start mapping out your mission and vision, but it's also going to get you to look at your currency, which are, what are the things that you are going to increase for kids and decrease for kids, and that'll help you to start to express value. I'm going to do a quick screen share because I want to show you a couple things that we've added in for you. Amy, I know you're still there. I've had a text from Juliet saying she's going to have to delay because something came up with her husband, and she's going to probably jump on around 4:45. Join me if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. And that's my time, so that'll be like 3:45 your time. So you're going to take a look at module 3. I think you're good to move on to that. So all these modules, right? You can always come back, and you're always going to come back and revisit these pieces as your vision expands, as you're thinking about your school expands. One of the things I want you to ask you to do is to go into the resource folder or I sent you an email this morning, but Amy
Yes.
came up with a timeline document because we're realizing that we can do a better job of helping you stay on track by getting you to set some goals for yourself.
Okay.
And we're going to
Yeah, I saw that.
we're going to start doing this with people when they're onboarded, and we'll just have them do it up front so that from the get-go, we kind of have this agreement of we're going to try. It's not like you have to get it done, but you could put in some dates of when you think you can get these done. And we want you to be looking at the fact that you started in July and that as of October 18th, you'll have hit the 3-month mark. That's not to say you can't finish the work with us, but we're also realizing the more people we take on, the more we need to focus our work in that 3-month period, just to have you be effective and for us to be effective.
Sure.
I am still working to finalize a new business plan template for you. So there's nothing in your workspace right now. It's very likely that the marketing and the action plans are going to become part of the business plan. And it's very likely that the deliverables will be a business plan that includes these two things, and then also a separate budget.
Okay.
And we'd love for you to give us a date that you think you'd like to open your school. We'd like you to go ahead and project that out because I think that will really help motivate you.
I'm hoping for January.
Okay, then we got to really crack the whip with you. Crack.
I'm working on other stuff. I've looked ahead and everything. I just could never finish typing up that part.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm glad we scheduled the call today because here's the thing. Without something like this, we're flying in the dark as far as how we can help you. And with with the group time not working for you, then we're not, we have to reach out and communicate with you one-on-one, which we can do once we know when you think you're going to have things done. So you'll give us this launch date in January. You'll tell us when you think you can have this singular plan done. And when you sort of think you're going to touch on these modules, the most important modules are 1, 2, and 3. 4, 5, and 6 are going to be useful. 7 and 8 are kind of bonuses. So if you don't get to those, 7 is about finding your tribe. 8 is about the launch of your school, which will be what you'll be doing in January. Module 9 is actually projecting out if you want to do an expansion of any kind. That's what we're realizing is that's more what we do when you join the collective and go into the year-long mentorship.
That sounds good.
The one other thing I wanted to show you was in that resources area, I've also given you there will be one that's your micro school XYZ business plan, but we do have we actually had a financial gal create this for us. So as you're starting to think about your school, you can download this budget and just start playing around with it because what's in here will really get you thinking about costs, and it lets you take, like put in the number of students at your tuition rate, and then it'll calculate the total revenues at the bottom, and you'll be able to see profits and losses, which will really help you start to realize that, like, oh my gosh, I want to pay myself $60,000, but there's no way I'm going to make that with what I'm charging.
Sounds good. Okay.
And in order to make about 60 grand, I think the last time I looked at it, you've got to have 10 students paying at least $1,000 a month, something like that, because you're going to have other costs. So download that and just play around with adding things in. You're welcome to change the name of, put your name in, take this logo out, put your logo in if you have one, and just see what you can come up with. And do notice that the Micro School Builders Workshop is built in here as a startup expense. And the reason we want you to do that is when you have that business plan ready to share with people, we want them to see that you have paid for training. When I met Cam's families, when I was out in Pasadena 2 weeks ago, I can't even express to you how important it was for me to be there because they had concerns about whether or not the school would stay open. And once we talked and I said that she was in the mentorship group for the year and the primary focus was on making this a strong business that would thrive and continue, it was just like the stress melted off of them.
I like that.
So yeah, your to-dos would be go ahead and download that budget and play with it, and go ahead and start to look at module 3, and hopefully we'll move the call to a time that'll work for you.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll check back in about that. Is Friday a good day for you though? Is that
It is.
not working?
Yeah, I only work a half a day on Friday.
So if we put it on Friday afternoons at like 4 o'clock or something like that Eastern Standard, would that work for you?
Sure. That's perfect, actually.
Okay, so Friday afternoons are good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you do it Thursday afternoon?
Thursday, if I can, it should be coming up soon. My coworker that has to leave, her son's about to start play practice that she can stay longer.
Okay.
Instead of having to go pick him up from school.
Okay. But Fridays are best for you because of the fact that you're working a half day.
That's right.
Okay. Well, at the very least, I think Amy and I could probably swing it that we can catch up with you for like 15 minutes to half an hour on Fridays. We're doing that with another client who she coaches kids in hockey every afternoon. So we meet with her at the time that works for her.
I appreciate it.
You know, if we'll do that. Well, you know what? We're still figuring out what's the best way to support you guys to help you get that business plan done.
Sounds great. I did one business plan, but I think I need to go back and rework it. I did it with the Small Business Association one, which was like 15, 20 pages long.
Yeah.
But it was good to be able to sit down.
We're going to give you a template that's a conglomeration of both a traditional business plan with some additional educational pieces added. Cool. Really need to be there. So we will have that to you shortly, and then you can just pull everything over and plug it in. Okay?
That sounds great.
Fantastic. Stephanie, have a great weekend. And when after the call is over, I will put the recording up, and then I'll put it here in this recorded calls folder.
Okay. That sounds cool.
In fact, I don't even know. Yeah, we had one there for you. I believe it's you. Hopefully that's not somebody else.
I think we did one time before.
Okay. Maybe that isn't you. Okay. Says the video is not available, but I will put your video from today in the folder. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Stephanie, I'm so glad we caught up. And Amy, I'm going to unmute you in case you have any parting words for Stephanie.
I no parting words other than it was great to hear from you, and I love hearing what you're up to.
Ditto. I hope you're having fun.
We are. I have a chaperone with me, so I'm not trying to do everything at once. It's good.
Good.
That's awesome.
I think it sounds awesome.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
Good. Amy,
Thank you.
are you going to be able to meet with me at 4:45 today or no?
Yes, I should be able to. If I'm not in the car, I'll be home, and my chaperone's going to help me drive, so I can actually sit and listen and talk. And
fantastic. Very much
not have noise in the background.
Okay. Stephanie, good luck, and we'll check in with you next week to see how things are going, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.